As I've said a couple times in recent videos, the developers have actually been hard at work making some pretty major changes to Lord of the Rings Rise to War. One of the changes they made somewhat recently that has been in the game for a little while, but I wanted to mess around with it before I made a video about it, is changes to a lot of the ability point-based ring skills, that being mock battling, aka mind sharpening, clairvoyance, and quick march. So in this video, I want to share my opinion on these changes. Let's get into it. Alright, first up we have the changes to mind sharpening, rather the changes to quick-witted. In my campaign, it still shows 100% bonus for mind sharpener EXP. However, in future campaigns, once I start them, and it's actually implemented now, live now, I do believe, this is not going to give nearly as much bonus EXP. What does this mean in practice? Obviously, it means that mind sharpening is not going to be as viable of a way to level up your commanders in the future. However, in my opinion, this is a good change for a few reasons. Number one being they are adding EXP scrolls that you can earn into the game. These have been in some of the earlier seasons, I do believe. I have not played through the seasons with EXP scrolls. However, I've had a lot of feedback from my Discord community that they are indeed quite awesome. The reason I like this change is free-to-play and low spenders have a difficult time getting 300 power tiles in general, and they certainly aren't going to be getting 300 power tiles within the first few days of the game, like high spenders, whales, krakens, etc. Can't believe it or not, there are people in the game that can take a 300 power tile within the first 2 to 3 days. Probably sooner if they really wanted to blow their entire barracks. The point being, these people can get 300 power tiles extremely early on. Their economies are going to be way stronger due to their ability to farm high power tiles very early. And all in all, they're able to level a lot quicker than everybody else as a result of that. This will impact them somewhat. It's probably still going to be effective for those people to mock battle on 300s once they unlock the Mind Sharpener ring skill. I really do use those terms interchangeably. I apologize for that. I'll probably always do it, so maybe I should stop apologizing for it. Anyways, the other reason that I really like this change is now it means it's promoting a more active play style. You can have your main commanders out there fighting, farming, PvPing, taking keeps, doing whatever they actually need to do with their stamina, and then you can just feed them EXP scrolls. You won't have to just sit them on a 300 power tile for something like a week and a half to 2 weeks, and then voila, now you magically get to play with them because they're level 50. You'll get to play with them the entire time and feed them EXP via EXP scrolls. The next change that has been implemented, and this is live in my campaign, is the change to quick march. You are no longer allowed to quick march to any attacking tile, neutral enemy, doesn't matter. You can only move. They really should call it quick move now, since the move command is what goes to friendly tiles, whereas the march command is what goes to enemy tiles. A little bit of nitpicking, but anyway, you can no longer use this in any way, shape, or form offensively, and I kind of really hate it. Basically, the only use for quick march now is to quick march to a friendly tile and then pop guard or just land on the actual tile itself. However, this is prone to your enemy simply recalling, and you could say, well, you know, maybe they're past that 3-minute window to be able to recall. Well, if they're sending like a 10 or 15-minute march at you, you can probably get to the tile that you're trying to go to catch them without having to quick march. There are probably some super niche circumstances in which that is not the case. However, it's not going to be the majority of the time. And honestly, this is almost a waste of a ring point at this point. So far this campaign, I have never once used it and never once been like, oh man, I really wish I could quick march to this friendly tile right now. However, there have been instances when I wish I could have quick marched at enemy tiles when I'm like low on stamina and I'm trying to get one last hit in before I go to bed, and I don't want to risk sending a 9-10 minute march to an enemy tile because, you know, that's just going to get bounced, right? We all know it. It also makes defending keeps a little bit more difficult because you can't quick march onto the keep. For example, And this season, when we took Pelargir back from evil, we had the standard Gondor side of Pelargir, they had the South Ithilien side of Pelargir, and they were trying to defend a little bit, but they were having to march all the way across the lake. These were like 3, 5, 7, 9-minute marches coming in. That makes it way, way more difficult to defend. So I think it's a little bit ironic that a lot of these changes were done in order to promote defensive gameplay, I believe, was the logic behind a lot of them. However, the lack of being able to quick march, because they also slowed it down, technically, I will clarify that for a second. They still could have sent quick marches to the keep because it was friendly to them. However, they also drastically reduced the speed at which your army moves. So because of that, they made it more difficult to defend. So in my opinion, I think they need to make the march go super, super, super fast again if they want this to actually promote a defensive sort of playstyle or improve the defensive aspect of this game. That way you could still use it defensively, and it would be worth spending the 5 AP in situations like that where you're trying to defend like a crossing, a choke point, a keep, etc., etc. Right now, the army doesn't even move that much faster. You can't use it offensively. It's just bad. Save yourself the ring point and don't take it, or take it way later when you no longer need those precious, precious ring points. And finally, the biggest and probably most controversial change is the change to the Clairvoyance ring skill. This is now only usable on neutral tiles, aka this is absolutely useless. Do not skill it. I can't think of a single reason to skill it. Technically, I can think of one, but it is what it is. We're not going to get into that little niche use case. I do like this change in the sense that you can actually stack up and defend a bit better. Obviously, the flip side of that is it makes your enemy be able to stack up and defend a bit better, but at least you're both having the same struggle in terms of neither of you can clairvoyance the other. I also like that it promotes people not making like clairvoyance alt accounts, throwing an alt account in, just getting them to ring level 11 or whatever it takes, which doesn't take long at all, because you'd have to put 1 point in here, your 10th point in there, and then your 11th point in there. Actually, technically, you could get ring level 10, respec, and get it. Either way, obviously, on an alt account, you can get that super, super quickly and then always have tons of ability points to just constantly scout for yourself and your friends. So I like that it is another way of removing alt accounts, AFK accounts from the game. So I really have mixed feelings on this. If there was no such thing as people making alt accounts specifically for the purposes of clairvoyancing, I think this would be a bad change, because I liked that there was an opportunity cost that came with gathering that information. I think alternatively, they could have just made it cost more potentially, so that there's more of an opportunity cost, and probably moved it somewhere over here. Maybe even move like Abundant Force or Abundant Alacrity over into the resource tree, even though it doesn't really line up with resources. Clairvoyance also doesn't really line up with resources anyway. So I think you could move it elsewhere so that it's a bit harder to run these type of alt accounts specifically for the purposes of clairvoyancing. Overall, the current issue is that it is just not a usable skill in like 99% of circumstances. There's just no reason to take it, no reason to use it. It would be awesome if they changed it to something else at this point, and maybe in the future they will. Either just completely get rid of the entire idea of clairvoyance and implement something like the conversion mechanic instead in its place. Or, I mean, who knows? There's plenty of things that they could do, I'm sure, with ability points. But again, save yourself the ring point and don't take it. That's it for this video, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and thank you for watching.